Hello everyone, we'll be getting started as you can see very soon. Hopefully you can hear me okay. If there's any issues with that, just let me know. Alrighty, here we are. Welcome, thanks for hanging out with me today. It was really great last week, so we thought we would do it again. And we're gonna call this one Feeling Rushed to Heal, which is not what that says on the screen, but that's gonna be the theme this week, is feeling rushed to heal. Now, of course, you can type questions in the chat about anything related to this whole world of inner work, emotional healing, EFT tapping, which you might have seen a lot of. There is a lot of that on my channel, and that's a technique that I really like and lean heavily into, but it's certainly not the only thing I use. It's not the only thing I use for myself, and it's not the only thing I use working with other people. But going back to the theme at hand, this feeling rushed to heal, this is based, as usual, on some comments that have come in on the channel. So there's been a kind of theme of a few different questions and comments around, like, I feel this urgency to get it going, to get some results, to get something happening, whether that's, of course, literal, like physical healing, emotional healing, something that's been tugging at you for a long time, or any aspect of this work in general where you feel kind of blocked or resistant, or feel like things just aren't really moving forward in the way that you would like them to. So it's always a really interesting and kind of tricky one at times in this whole world of this type of topic and this type of work, because there are so many other areas of life where it's very linear, in the sense of, like, okay, if I just keep cranking out, if I put more hours into building this website gets more completed. If I crank out more whatever widgets I build at the office, then I've produced more. And there's an almost romanticizing of that sort of work ethic, and, like, yeah, the more you grind, the more you push it, the harder you go, the more you're going to see results. And even in school, even a lot of our upbringing and the whole culture, I would imagine that America's not the only culture where this is so, where there's, again, a sort of exaltation of, like, the harder you push, the more you stay up late and grind it out, the more results you're going to get. So the reason that's delicate with emotional work is, yes, I would say, like all other things in life, the more you, let's say, make it a priority, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. But that comes with a caveat. It's not the kind of thing where, like, the harder you push, the more results you're going to get. It's more like the kind of thing where the more I explore it and learn what actually works with this body, mind, nervous system, the more experience I have, the more tuned into the nuances I will be. And that will get me more in tune with how this whole process works and what works for me. So for things to actually process in your body, mind, nervous system, for example, again, it's different for different people, and there can be moments where there's real exceptions to this, like sort of the massive breakthrough type situation. But things have to kind of unwind and unfold in the way that makes sense, in the way that's actually appropriate. So if you think about another function of the body, right, like digesting food. Now, can you work real hard and make it go like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times faster? Not really. You can't just will that into being, as far as I know. Maybe there's some yogis somewhere that can do that, probably. But there's going to be a difference when you eat a food that your digestive system is used to, that's of better quality, that's the right amount for you. That's kind of what makes, or let's say allows, that natural functioning of the body to work well, to work the way it's designed to do. But you can't go in there like it's a machine and just crank it up to 10 and say, yeah, I'm just going to make this go really fast because this is inconvenient for me, or I'm tired of some of my natural bodily functions, so I just want to do something to make them go away. So I sort of, as I mature with this whole process, perceive a lot of emotional work and a lot of emotional healing in some ways analogous to physical healing, in the sense that we're creating an environment, we're doing sort of the right things for a natural process to be able to unwind, to be able to move in the way that is actually natural for it. So if we are grinding really hard, if we're really perfectionist, if we're always on the move, always pushing to create more, to accomplish more, and maybe we're staying up late, we're like digesting too much content, we're on the screen too much, we're having too much stimulation to our nervous system, that's not the ideal environment to process whatever that might be, whether that's trauma or just the day-to-day stress of life. But there is a natural sort of way of working with that system. So you can be doing like whatever, your EFT, your different emotional work processes, but your whole day up until that moment could have been like nose to the grindstone, and you could have been stressed and really thinking or behaving in a certain way, maybe doing things that aren't ideal for your body, mind. And then when you're doing your emotional work or your tapping, there's also this like urgency, like, okay, just hurry up. This is very, this emotional pain or this pattern or this thing going on with my body is really, really inconvenient to me. So I'm going to work hard and I'm going to like tap like a madman for these 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes and really hope that's going to create a result. Now, I'm sort of exaggerating that, but that can be a way that it manifests without it being so obvious, right? You don't necessarily realize you're doing that because, for one, we're acclimated to a very high, I would say, baseline level of stress, just sort of in the modern world in general, right? So rarely are our days filled with sort of, support and encouragement and proper amount of rest and space, and being told, yeah, work in the way that feels best for you and works best for you and the time that's best for you. That sounds a bit utopian, right? So what is just quote unquote normal? The Myth of Normal, that's a great book by Gabor Mate, really leans into this hard. It becomes normalized, but it's not actually normal for your body, mind, nervous system. So the very kind of energy around us often reinforces this sense of like, I'm in a rush to heal, and the harder I push, the more I do, the more results I'm going to get. So anything you can do to kind of investigate that, that's just one angle of it, of course, within yourself, where the urgency itself is sort of born out of this petri dish often, or this inner and external environment of, hey, I got stuff to do, right? I have things to do. I need to get this over with. I need to get on with it. There's a little bit of a shift in perspective that I'm exploring. It's a big part of kind of what I lean into, and, a continuing evolution with how I try to approach this for myself, because that's why I got into all this stuff, is to work with myself and the things that have been challenging me, is this sort of, again, the relationship mindset, right? If you're not familiar with what that means, or like my approach to that, there is an ebook, it's free in the description, that I outline that in a little more depth. But the bottom line being how we're actually relating to ourselves, to our thoughts, feelings, emotions, is really where the gold is, as opposed to just, what's the best technique to get me results? How much time do I need to spend? What do I need to do to kind of get the result? That's a very, of course, result, sometimes repair oriented mindset, right? Let me find the thing that's wrong with me. Let me do what I need to do as efficiently as possible to get the result. There are times where that sort of makes sense. If you're like, what's the thing that's the highest leverage to tap on or explore with my emotional work? But the paradigm of like, I am just something to work on versus what's my relationship with everything that's going on inside me. I think we talked about this a little last week where, if you have a son or a daughter or a nephew, you're just like, okay, well, what's the thing I need to do to get this relationship over with? Like, it doesn't make sense. Or what do I just do to make them permanently happy and then, I don't ever have to hang out with them again? No, it's an ongoing, constant process. So I believe it's very similar with sort of cultivating this kind of thing with ourselves. So if you're thinking about it that way, that can automatically chill out a little bit some of the paradigm of like rushing and how do I make this happen and what do I need to do to hurry up and heal. It's what is the actual dynamic with myself even in this moment? How am I talking to myself? How am I approaching myself or this work or my attitude or approach to it? I think that becomes a really different tone. The other side of this is recognizing that your desire to change, especially if you're in like a health situation or you're going through a divorce or whatever, of course you're going to want that to change. So there's like another aspect that can happen. We get into this, what you might call more of a self-compassionate type of approach with, the inner work stuff, where it's like, okay, now I'm supposed to be loving and accepting of everything. And it's like we're almost trying to deny that, yeah, of course I want this to change. Like, no, I don't care. Like, I'm all good. I'm going to try to accept this. I need to accept this as best as possible. Like we said last time, this idea that if I get diagnosed with, a pretty rough disease, that I'm just going to go, I just accept it. It's, it is what it is. And that's a very rare reaction and an extremely high bar to put on yourself. So at the same time, you are recognizing that, yeah, of course I want this to change. Anyone would want this to change. But what is the actual best way to do that? Well, it's generally not coming from a place of, okay, I need to rush, I need to get this done as quickly as possible. So this is again where it gets a little sticky and where, getting nuanced guidance on it, getting perspectives on it, checking in with other people that know you, that you work with, or are just even into any type of, modality or any type of work on themselves, whether it's kind of this, specific emotional work or something else, to be clued into that sense of, okay, more is not always more, faster is not always better. Training, over exercising can do sometimes more harm than good, often can do more harm than good. So how do we feel into this balance where, yes, of course I'm trying to like maximize my results, but the very spirit of like, this isn't working fast enough. I tapped on this a month ago. I tapped on this a week ago. Hurry up, man. Come on. That spirit is not the most conducive to actually getting you the result you want. So that's kind of a way you can explore getting those parts of you that are like, I want this over with. You acknowledge it honestly. Yeah, of course you want this over. I want it over too. But what is the system we're dealing with? What is the situation we're in, right? In the physical body, if it's a very, very minor cut versus a bone broken, there's a difference between how we approach that and what to expect in terms of timelines. So if you keep pushing, like, come on, I don't have time for this like tendonitis injury. I'm just going to work through it. Hurry up. What's the fastest way to do it? Well, even if you're doing everything, quote unquote, right or correctly, there's going to be a different period of time involved in most cases for different things. So it's important to kind of have that in the back of your mind when, okay, what am I working with? What is the intensity of it? What will it or might it require of me, not only in terms of what I need to look at or even work through, but also in terms of patience or sort of perspective on the amount of time this might take, or what to realistically, not putting a limiting belief on it, but just saying, okay, this is the situation I'm in. There's a lot going on here. Or you start doing some work on yourself. It's like, wow, there's some pretty deep stuff here in my childhood or relationship with my family. This is not a quick fix situation. Acknowledging that is important, right? Because emotional work is often invisible, it doesn't always translate as directly. So if you're doing sprints up the hill and you're just like, if I just do 100 of these in a week, I should be in shape. It's, of course, that is not going to go well, right? It's like, wow, okay, I can barely get up the hill. This is going to take some time. This is going to take some retraining of my body. This is going to take a different perspective. I might have to learn some new things here. It can be like that with this stuff. For me, it's continuously ongoing so far, the subtleties of it, the nuances of it, where I'm pushing, where I'm in a rush, where my mind has decided that, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 3 months, whatever is too, quote unquote, too long. It's like, well, who are we actually to decide that? So exploring that and having this perspective of like, okay, the being in a rush energy, I acknowledge it. Of course, I'd like it to go as fast as it can, but what is the situation? How is my body, mind, nervous system responding to what I'm doing? And then what is the most efficient way, the most effective way to just keep moving forward with that? So I hope that kind of addresses, some of the comments that have come in this week. And I have on the screen there, if you have any questions, I will be hanging out. I know different days, the holiday weekend. Last week we had a bunch of them coming in and we hung out for an hour or so. So if there are questions, if there are things you want to bring up or discuss, even unrelated as far as the specific topic we were just talking about, but something in this workspace, right? This emotional workspace, feel free to type it into the chat and we'll see what we get. If no one has anything today, we will call it there, but we will see what's going on for everyone. How is it going for you? Do you feel like you're in a rush? Do you feel like there's some things you're developing more patience with, less patience with? Questions about how to kind of cultivate some of that. For me, that's often a tricky one, the patience thing. But believe it or not, I am so much more patient than I was, and I had to be kind of out of necessity to explore, okay, this energy that just wants everything to be done now or wants it to go my way. When it started to just look at the mechanics, the reality of how life actually works versus how I think it should, or thinking that if I do enough emotional work or other types of processes, then I should be able to make reality move in a completely different way. Well, I'm certainly not there yet. Like I said, if there are some yogic masters and stuff who have these spontaneous abilities, I would need to have patience with myself that it's not I am not anywhere near that yet. And so whatever is the next step, whatever I need to do. Oh, cool. Got some questions here. Hi, Evan. Would you agree that our internal energetics are in alignment with our experience in life? It's an interesting one. I would say it's hard for me to know, to not answer that without sort of saying it's a belief. right? Do we know for a fact, like with some of the events happening in the world, if someone is being, you know, their house is destroyed or it's destroyed by a hurricane or someone's partner dies, like, is that because of the energetics of their internal world? I'm not comfortable saying anything about that really, because unless I had some special insight to be able to see that directly, I don't know. But this is to me the most important part. I would say that our internal energetics are in alignment with how we respond. Absolutely. I think that is the deal in a lot of ways, because there's just too many examples to me of millions and millions and millions of things happening, right? Like, you know, a friend of mine's dog is sick. Like, is the dog have the wrong beliefs and the wrong energetics? Like, I doubt it. I don't know. But the way we respond to a situation seems to absolutely correlate to our internal sense of alignment. So if I'm more at peace, if I'm more at ease, if I'm more accepting, if I'm more kind of clear and able to feel and process my own emotions when something rough happens, or even just inconvenient happens, the way I'm going to respond to it is much different and can be much less suffering. Like, there doesn't seem to be a limit in how much we can suffer and how much of that suffering can be toned down by doing the like emotional work. And that's why I made a very conscious decision to lean really, really specifically into that, because it's demonstrative, right? Like, we can prove to ourselves that, okay, as I process through something emotionally, the way I respond is different. And I would say that, at least in my life, there's absolutely been changes in experience and things that have happened that you could say are positive. But there's a lot of things that happen that were what anyone would judge as not positive, that no one wants. And I think that's true for all of us listening. So I'm really, really cautious of a paradigm where everything that happens can be turned into a blame situation, or, oh, my energy must be off, because that can often turn into, I mean, if it's true for me, then that would be true about reality, right? So is everything bad that's happening, is everyone's experience um, based on their energy? Well, if you think of your experience being your reaction to a situation, then absolutely. So that's kind of where I'm at with that at this stage in my life and this stage of my understanding, right? And if you think about it, you can be on a, and there's literal examples of this in certain, you know, celebrities and stuff. You can be on a private jet going to Maui. Well, Maui, there's a talk about an example, right? You can be on a, it's so embedded to even say Maui is like this beautiful place. Now, is what happened to Maui the people that lost all their homes because their energy was off? I don't go there. But you can be on a private jet going to whatever resort and be miserable and be hating your life and be, you know, this guy has a bigger private jet, whatever is going on for you. Or you can be just sitting in your house, sitting in your small apartment, being like blissed out, just being so fascinated by the fact that you're even alive and that anything even exists at all, and that there even seems to be a conscious awareness of my own existence, right? Someone can be blissed out sitting on a mat somewhere doing that and be enraged because, you know, they don't like how this tree is out their window or something, right? So that's the thing. Nadia Insights. Evan, what is the relationship between healing and non-duality? My understanding is very little, if anything, depending on what you're talking about with non-duality. So if you're talking about like Advaita and different teachings and stuff like that, if you are not this body and you are not this dream character, like non-duality has turned into so many things, especially on YouTube. So I don't think they're really related. I don't know if they ever were, but if this body is not me and this is a dream and this is an illusion, which I don't think is actual, like non-duality is way more nuanced than that, at least the people I follow and listen to. Um, but when it turns into like, how do I not be the body so that my body can heal? It's like, well, wait a minute. Right? So I find this a lot. And again, why I leaned completely and almost exclusively into emotional work and not thinking I'm any kind of teacher is because there's this abundance, I would say, of people sometimes coming to me with challenges, health challenges, physical challenges, emotional, whatever. And they're like, well, but I know I'm not the body, and I know that this is, it's just consciousness and this is just my perspective. It's like, that's all head stuff at that stage, right? Like, it's very muddy and confusing at that point, because I think we just have to own whatever our experience is. And if it's like, well, regardless of what anyone says, right now, I definitely feel like I'm in this body and it hurts and I want it to not hurt. You can really confuse things by like 1 second I'm trying to like actually work through my trauma, and then I'm clicking over to another video saying, what trauma? There is no body. None of this is real. There are people who have that kind of teaching style with non-duality, and there are other teachers of non-duality that are very subtle and nuanced and will encourage emotional work and shadow work and things of that nature. So it's such a nuanced thing that I would say be first and foremost really, really clear on what you want and what you want to experience. So I said in a video before, like, if you see the bass guitar behind me, if you want to learn how to play that, and that's what I do for a living, or the upright bass, we're going to talk about how you play it, right? I'm going to show you where your fingers go. We're going to talk about the mechanics of it. We are going to talk about thumb position and feel and groove and time and sound. If I start going, but there is no bass, this is all the bass and the player are all actually just a thought appearing in consciousness, and you are the awareness of that thought. That's totally fascinating, right? And you might want to lean really, really hard into that exploration, but you still will not be able to play that thing, right? And I don't think Rupert Spira can play bass better than me, but he certainly can articulate non-duality, and I'm sure go into, has a much deeper awareness than I do, would be my assumption, listening to someone very clear like that in their teaching. But like, do I want to heal and go through trauma? I don't know that he would be the first guy I recommend, because I don't know, like, maybe he does talk about that, maybe he does do that, but they are different things. So be very, very clear what you are signing up for, right? Like Dr. Joe Dispenza and the people that go there, like, my friend who, was diagnosed with a disease that doctors said was basically going to go blind, and got really into the Dr. Joe thing and did that work. And again, does that mean that anyone who does it and doesn't heal isn't doing it right? No, in my opinion, but that was clear. It's like, I'm doing this work that's about sort of exploring the emotions, exploring the relationship between thought and the body and emotions and the body. That's not really non-duality as I understand it. Non-duality is like a specific thing. So if you want to go into non-duality, great. If you want to do healing work, great. I don't think they're incompatible, but they can really mess with each other. If, depending on who you're listening to and what information is going into your brain and what you're trying to reconcile, and what your actual intentions are. because a lot of non-dual masters have died of diseases, right? I mean, Robert Adams might be my favorite. Just the way he, just his, the way he speaks on non-duality. He's pretty hardcore into like this is a dream, right? The ego doesn't even exist because nothing, like he leans heavily in that direction. And he had Parkinson's disease and died. He wasn't like non-duality will heal this body. He was like, what body? Right now, what do you want? Which direction do you want to go in? I think that is what's key. I think clarity is like that's the number one theme in my life is clarity. So when I was kind of involved in different things, wearing somewhat different hats, it didn't work for me. It was like, well, I'm not an awakened spiritual being, so I shouldn't talk about that. I can have my opinions, I can have my perspectives, but like if we're going to talk about non-dual awakening, um, I would want to be listening to someone who actually lives in an abiding non-dual awakened state. And there are, the teachers or two that I think actually are and are speaking from this is just experience, because the way they talk about it is the way I could talk about, you know, playing playing whatever standard in a different key with this drummer. Like, I'm not talking about that philosophically, like, well, we become one with the music, like none of that bullshit. Pardon my French. So I can tell you what it's like. Yeah, there's this push and pull, and this person plays a little on top of the beat, and I like to hold it a little more steady because you get that tension with the vocalist. There's people who talk about their sort of non-duality or spirituality that way. It's clear that they're talking from an experience that they can describe as matter of factly as we can describe, the cup of coffee we're drinking. That's a thing I really listen to. So I hope that was interesting, or it might be not helpful. So the point is, listen, find the people who help you with exactly what you are looking for with non-duality and or healing. That's again why I focus on like doing emotional work and these nuances, because if you come to me with, hey, I'm experiencing this pain in my life, and these are the memories that come up, these are the sensations in my body, we will process through that. And then if you want to simultaneously explore, like, well, what is the consciousness that's exploring that? There are people that can talk to you about that. But I consider them that's like going to two very different specialists. And so, yeah, I hope that helps. I like that conversation because again, I've seen it, and I've had many people come to me in a state that I feel is like, oh man, I feel for them so much, because it's like, I want to get this non-dual awakening, and like that I don't exist and the body doesn't exist, but what I really, really want actually is to like heal my body. I'm not interested in like the nature of consciousness except for the result it's going to get me, which is fine, but really focus on exactly what you want. Great, great, great question. Thank you so much. Gilbert, hey, what's up, man? I love the You Are Healing tapping video, but what about the situations where our healing is contingent on us following protocols and procedures? I can feel like we're not doing it enough or well enough to heal or even to deserve healing. Yeah, isn't this like isn't it a nuanced thing, right? Because, man, I am discovering more and more, again, I catch it in myself. I think a lot of YouTube is this. Sun is coming in again. If it bothers you, just let me know. I kind of like just leaving it because I like seeing it. But there's this real human nature, I think, a real human desire. If you don't mind me speaking for all humanity, like just give me the answer. Like, please just tell me. Can I just follow this teacher and have a non-dual awakening and be cool for the rest of my life? Can I just eat carnivore and that's going to fix everything? Can I just be a vegan and that's going to fix everything? Like, we really want that. And then we like to kind of settle on something and then say, okay, here's the thing now, if I do it right, it's going to work and I'm going to heal. If I'm not healing, I'm just doing whatever it is wrong. So that is like one thing I think that's always in the background and is always kind of sticky and tricky. And then there is, like you said, an actual healing protocol and procedure. So if you, like, again, break a bone, you probably want to listen to the doctors as far as how long to keep it in a cast. Then yes, there's these crazy stories of people who do meditative work or whatever, of spontaneous healings, spontaneous remissions. But I'm not going to bank on that. If I, like I said, when I broke my knee, I was actually really mad at myself that like I couldn't make it heal faster, and it was going really well in the beginning, and then something was too aggressive that actually someone else kind of did to me and prescribed, but then it was like, did I attract that? All that stuff. It's so human, right? And I was really like, I was following kind of the protocol, but there was someone, the person who was prescribing it was probably not that experienced, and basically said the more you do, like, the faster it's going to repair, the faster you're going to get your muscles back. Now, if you tell someone my personality that's dangerous. I will overdo it. Maybe not anymore, but I did then. It's like, okay, if more is more and I have a high pain threshold, I'm going to, I'm going to work till it's whatever. And so it's this kind of learning about ourselves, I think, is really so key, and why I'm interested in emotional work, because it's like gets us down into discovering about ourselves. And how do we become more in tune with our own body, our own nervous system, our own emotions, so that we can follow protocol, but perhaps we might need to also be in tune enough to say, you know what, this protocol works for a lot of people, but I think I've followed it pretty steadily. I think I can say I need to make some adjustments. It's not working, might not be working for me. And that's tough, because it's like, well, I think we like to say, well, it works and I'm just doing it wrong, so I just need to do it harder. Or, hey, it's nonsense, it didn't work, now I'm like angry at it. It's really like, okay, there are protocols that are hopefully designed based on they work for a lot of people. Hopefully there's been some sort of control group, some kind of, you could call it study, or some comparison to be able to say it's not just like if you take 10,000 people and 5,000 people get better anyway, naturally, and it doesn't actually matter whether they do this protocol or not. It's basically the equivalent of just, shining a flashlight, on your skin or something. Hopefully the protocol, we want to like do what we can to find out, okay, is this protocol based on something, not just like 10 people said, hey, I got better from it, when statistically, whatever it is, 10 might get better anyway. You know what I'm saying? So that makes things tricky, because anything you look up now, you can always find someone, hey, this healed me. And you're like, oh, I should try that. I have the same thing, and it doesn't work for you, or it backfires. That can be very frustrating and confusing. So like you said, your healing might be contingent on some protocols and procedures. And then there's that investigation of, okay, is it a good protocol, and what is that based on? Good, check. I know this is solid. Is it working well for me? Okay, cool, great. And then, yeah, it can be discipline. There can be emotional work needed to like have the discipline to follow the protocol, which is a common role that someone like me will have, where working with someone like, yeah, I know it works for me to meditate, or I know if I, do these specific tasks every day, I feel better, but I have resistance and I have emotional things that make it hard to stick with that. Then yeah, we'll do some tapping or whatever together to help, with either the calming of the resistance or the resourcing, and the sometimes just willingness to say, yeah, I'm not, there's days I'm not going to feel like doing it, but I'm finding the resources to do it anyway. There's that aspect, right? So being able to like stay with the protocol. then of course there are good protocols, there are good techniques that you do them for a while and they plateau or they sort of stop working, which became sort of the bedrock of like my practice in a lot of ways, right? It's almost a specialty of mine, you could say, of like, hey, I was doing this thing and it was working and now it's not. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, oh, well, things kind of work like that. Things bump up against ourselves, they hit plateaus. Our perspective about them may have been like, yeah, okay, it helped me. So therefore, if I just keep doing it for another 6 months, 8 months, whatever, that's going to fix everything. Not always the case. Protocol or a certain technique gets you to a certain level. And then, yeah, we might need some adjustment because we're at a new level or things have changed. You can't just lift 1 pound dumbbell for the rest of your life. And well, if I do 8 trillion reps with the 1 pound dumbbell, it's like, no, there's mechanics involved. So that can be an aspect to it. We feel like we're not doing it enough or well enough to heal or to deserve healing. And so, yeah, it's beautiful. For me, I think a lot of it comes back to this sort of self-exploration, self-curiosity, because is that the paradigm that's running? Is it an impatience because we have an old pattern, an old way of looking at life and saying, oh, I'm doing it wrong? A same scenario with another person, another personality could look at the same situation and lash out and say, they're doing it, they did it wrong, they lied to me, whatever, right? So that is why, again, like, we be really clear on who we are talking to for what. So for me, it's the emotional aspects of that. The emotional aspects that can give us a tendency to want to latch on to a protocol, latch on to a spiritual teacher, believe we've found the answer, and okay, and I'm going to latch on to them until it works. The emotional aspects that make us judge our progress or lack of progress, going, oh, it's me, it's my fault, I failed, I'm doing it wrong, I did it wrong, right? Those emotional aspects can be really, really key to the whole journey, but they're probably not a complete journey, right? In the sense that if you come to me with a broken arm, I'm like, well, we can we can tap with your one arm on the pain, we can tap on your self-blame. That usually has some level of contribution to the pain, but you need to go see someone who knows how to set your arm and knows what your specific break is and like is trained in that area. So I wish there were simpler answers. But if there were, we'd all just have them. There wouldn't be like all of us people doing stuff on YouTube if it was just really like, well, just do this, just get in this meditative state and everything will be perfect for you. Even if that's hypothetically true, nothing has seemed to work as this sort of catch-all approach. So it's like there's the emotional aspect to your protocol and the protocol itself, the physical aspects, and you see where you might need the support, right? Without, as best we can, wanting one thing to do or fix everything, right? So you can have very good emotional regulation, right? You've done a lot of work on yourself, you're pretty calm, you can still have terrible posture that's going to create issues, right? And then just because you meditate a lot and, have a pretty good relationship with yourself doesn't mean you might not need to work with a posture coach or a physical therapist or follow a posture protocol. My friend, there's a guy named Olivier Girard on YouTube. He's great. He's called Olivier Girard, the posture guy, right? I just finished going through his course again. Just because I like do a lot of meditation and tapping doesn't undo automatically, a couple decades of, actually most of my life, with probably pretty poor posture with my neck and like playing the bass and being like hunched over and not having the best mechanics when I'm playing an instrument for many hours a day. So yeah, no amount of meditating took care of that. It gives you the awareness. Body awareness can be really key in going, oh, Yeah, cool. I'm aware now, but there might need to follow a protocol, exactly like you're saying. Like healing, quote unquote, if you want to use that word with posture, healing posture, getting your body used to a different posture is very likely to follow a physical protocol as well as emotional protocol, because when you're feeling bad or in pain, like emotional pain, let alone physical pain, that of course can influence posture, but emotional pain, you feel bad, you're kind of, it's like this is kind of the look, right? You can even see this emotion just if I kind of hunch down, and and that's different than this, if you exaggerate it, but like just this energy is just different than this. And so they all kind of play together. So yeah, did that inspire anything? Did that even answer your question? Right, let me know. um, Trust the Universe says, thank you for these talks. Yes, I got caught in that trap early in my life. Oh yeah, was that the non-duality and spiritual teacher part of it, or something else? I'd be curious. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Nadia. Insights. I'm glad that was helpful. Yeah. Sometimes, my particular take with that subject, I hope is helpful, but there's always that chance, like, is this just making it more confusing to an already delicate and confusing kind of situation? Twig says, thanks, Evan. I appreciate your no nonsense approach. Oh, thanks. Thank you very much. There's a lot of BS out there. There sure is. There sure is. And there's, I'm sure BS in here in this mind, well, that I'm always trying to work through and sort out. But yeah, there is, man, it is like amazing to have access to all of this, but it is scary. It's scary sometimes what people say and put out there, and with such confidence, right? With such certainty. And the certainty is what makes it dangerous, because they might be completely convinced they're right, and it might have actually worked, right? But life is very nuanced. And that's why I'm not married to any approach or concept, except maybe a few sort of very fundamental principles about, treating people as well as you can, and things maybe not even worth going into. But as far as anything else of like, well, hey, if you do EFT, you're going to be less stressed. Maybe, right? There's good studies on it, but that doesn't mean you're going to have results with it. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong if it's not helping you, right? And if my content doesn't help you, it's not your fault, right? But that is actually an underlying theme in a lot of this stuff, and like arguing the different perspective and which one is right. It's like, well, there's so many variables. There's so many variables that it's like you're doing the best you can to navigate. That's why I like to think in the lens of emotional work, or whatever you want to call it, for self-discovery, to learn ourselves the best, because as best we can. Not that that's the best tool to do it, but the more you know yourself, the more you're in tune with your own, you can call it gut feelings, higher self, intuition, however you think about it. That is the guidepost that says, that's a belief of mine, you could say, that there is something, you could either call it within you or like higher, whatever, that we do have access to. That is the best thing to guide you. Like, should I do this? Should I listen to this guy? Should I follow this woman on Instagram and listen to her diet advice? Wow, she had these great results, or this guy has. There is so much to suck you into that, and that doesn't, it might actually be right for you. But doing whatever we can to kind of filter through the urgency, right? That rush to heal, which is like the theme of the day. Because when you are in that rush, boy, you want to click on every ad, right? Every ad that comes up on your Facebook feed or below this video on YouTube, you're like, they fixed my problem. This person might, this sounds good. I should water fast for 5 years. I should eat only whatever. it's like most people who find the things that work for them arrive through a process, and we all have this journey we're on. So that rushed urgency is particularly sticky when you are, you know, looking for something that's going to help you. So as best we can, it's like, wait, let me tune in, let me process my urgency, this desire to get it done and get it done yesterday. What do I need? What's right for me right now? A lot of times we actually already have too much information. It's just like, what are the things I know that can definitely help bring me down today? Like, have I done the lowest hanging fruit? Sometimes it can be those things. Al Gilbert said, yes, that's right on. It's that feeling I'm doing everything but not healing fast enough. Is that I don't deserve it? Is it that I don't deserve it? Right. And that is a mechanism to examine. Like, interesting. Like, are you actually feeling, I don't deserve it? Meaning there's a real, tangible, visceral feeling, an emotional experience that you might use the words, I don't deserve it, to describe, but you're feeling it, it's very real for you. And then, yeah, there's something to work through there. Does that mean that's like why you're not recovering or healing faster? No one can say, right? I refuse to say those kinds of things. But yeah, sorry. Does that mean, does the difference between having a feeling and a real visceral experience that you would label, it's like, yeah, feeling like I don't deserve it, but really it's like a feeling in my chest. There's somatic, there's emotional, maybe there's some memories, some cognitive experiences. Or is it like I learned, or I read or listen to follow different people that say, well, if something's happening, it's because you believe you don't deserve it. And that's a little more mind heavy. It's like, maybe I don't deserve, maybe I believe I don't deserve it. And that's actually all thought. Big difference, right? So the one is like, I just have a feeling, it's raw, it's real, it's somatic, it's an experience. There's something there. There's going to be some benefit from processing through that. Versus like, I'm not rich. I wonder if I just have like a lack of abundance mindset. Right? Like it's cognitive. It's based on things we've heard. Like I wonder if I believe I don't deserve money. And it's a thought versus like, I think about money or whatever it is, I think about my current situation, and there is a real, quote unquote real, visceral somatic experience to work through. It's an interesting conversation, interesting distinction, right? The things that we've heard or are sort of taught, well, maybe this is happening. Maybe you don't have a partner because you don't, quote unquote, love yourself first. You don't love yourself enough. That's why you're not in a relationship. That can be a toxic thing to hear, or a good thing to hear, depending on how you interpret it and where you're at and what's going on for you. But it can be very intellectual. It can just be like, oh, well, I'm still single. I guess I don't love myself. How do I love myself? Right? And that can be a goose chase versus working. Well, no. Okay, well, when you think about a relationship or you think about the fact that you're single, what comes up? What is your real here now, visceral? What's happening in the body? And if you don't know, if you can't feel it, well, like, are you numb? Is there a numbness? Do you blank out? Right? There's always that room for exploration. So yeah, I hope that helps. Oh, if I hope I pronounce it right, Agatha. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out as someone who's new here. That's all the questions that are here for now. Does anyone have any questions, comments, anything based on what's come up or anything else? I'll give myself a moment to catch my breath. Say, it's so interesting here because I, of course, am doing all the talking, and I listen a lot, working with people and stuff. So I said last time, I feel it in my throat just kind of talking for, almost an hour straight. But it's good for me. It's good practice. And it's great to be engaged with all of you for sure. It's so cool that there are people who sort of share the interest and um, share a desire to kind of explore what actually works for all of us, right? I feel like that's really where it's at. We all have something unique and different experiences with like how we've done emotional work, what's worked. And like, I want to hear that, just like I want to hear, I want to talk to other bass players. I like to talk about, okay, what strings are you using? Like, how does it feel? Like, when you're playing here, what do how do you get used to that room? Versus just, okay, someone's coming down from the mountaintop and saying, this is how it is. This is how emotional work works. Obviously we want to be learning things from people with more experience, perhaps different kinds of training, but a sort of shared interest, I think, is really, really, really valuable. So, of course, share your thoughts and what your perspectives are, what's working for you, if you wish. Gilbert says that is really something that happens with heavy metals toxicity. Yeah, right? You think that the mental emotional effects are personal historical trauma, but it's effect of the metal. And I have actually seen it, at least in like text form, internet form, of people telling people, oh, that's emotional trauma, that's ancestral trauma. And the person ended up being diagnosed with like Lyme disease. It's like, well, that wasn't all trauma, I don't think, right? I think that the tick bite probably contributed to that, a good percentage, right? Now again, it's if you're going through heavy metal toxicity, I think it's going to be really good to have tapping and some other stuff to help you through the emotional suck and the physical suck, because it is going to suck, right? And you're going to have the feelings of like, why did this happen to me? This isn't fair. Like, this is awful. The fear. This will be a useful tool, or some type of emotional tool is good to have as part of your holistic thing, dealing with something like metal toxicity. But as we've sort of the theme of the day, you will come across things where it's like, well, whatever you're experiencing, there's people on some of these retreats, like retreats of certain whatever non-duality, different kinds of spiritual approaches, and it's like some people might have things where they really need some physical support or psychotherapy or something, and just waiting to awaken and have that take care of everything, or hoping it must be something wrong with my diet, it must be just some unhealed trauma, if I could just go through that. And then they find out, yeah, there's been too much mercury in your body for the last 4 years, but that wasn't like introduced, or there was we were so dug in on the like, if I do this spiritual thing, that's going to solve it. And I was like that, like, thank God I got snapped out of that. And it's kind of these kind of conversations and this kind of exploration of how deep can emotional work take us. There are people who have crazy remissions and all sorts of things, but I never, or I try to stay vigilant to let myself go into a camp of like, oh, I guess you just didn't tap enough, or I guess you just have some unhealed trauma. That's why these symptoms are occurring. It's like, well, what can we rule out? What can we test? What might it be? Have you talked to, the people that you might need to talk to deal with that? And I will help you as best I can with the emotional component. And God, I would love it if we tap through or work through some unhealed family trauma stuff and your symptoms go away. It can happen, because that could just be the thing that's pushing your body over the stress threshold of what it can handle, right? And when when your nervous system goes into that state of being over a certain threshold, there can be symptoms, and there can be certain symptoms that dissipate, go into remission, vanish, because some sort of emotional thing addresses the stress. But now, does that mean like if you're not getting better, you didn't do enough of your homework, young man? You haven't tapped through enough limiting beliefs. It's too delicate to go there for me at my level, right? So yeah, absolutely. It's just the heavy metal toxicity in your body is probably playing a very real physical role in what thoughts are appearing, in the emotions that are appearing, right? And so if you're just blaming yourself, I just can't get control of my emotions, and it turns out you have Lyme disease or something, it's like, man, it's not just because you're not reading enough, Eckhart Tolle. It's all contributing. And again, this is hopefully not to make life more confusing and complicated, but just make it simple. Like, okay, I'll do what I can with understanding there's different parts. Let me do emotional work and also be open to, yeah, maybe my diet plays a factor here. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe this particular thing is emotional. Let me find out. Let me just do the best practices I can and then learn about myself as best I can. I found faster EFT very beneficial. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've heard good things about them. Along with havening, I have heard good things about both. I have very little personal experience with them, but I have heard from more than one person who really likes both of those things. So go for it. Yeah, anything that you feel the benefits of is like lean into it and see how far it could take you. Maybe you found the thing and like this is just gonna, take you to like the finish line of whatever you were going for. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still haven't actually gone through faster EFT. There's a lot of kind of like EFT is sort of, you're allowed to have your own versions. You're allowed to have your own offshoots, which is very cool. It was very cool of Gary Craig. Most techniques out there, it's like they're owned by whoever they are owned by. And I cannot come out with, Evan's version of like whatever technique, right? EFT, you can do that. I am working on one called compassion tapping. So trademark, trademark Evan Greger compassion tapping. No, someone else. Yeah. But hopefully I get there first. And that is like a very interesting foundation because it's just somatic and it does send calming signals to the body. There are benefits to incorporating it with other approaches that might be doing something. You might be visualizing something. You might be repeating certain phrases. You might be doing whatever practice. Even just talking, even like doing some traditional talk therapy and like tapping while you talk through stuff, as long as whoever you're talking to isn't like completely distracted by it, so it's a very malleable thing that can be applied to other situations. So yeah, anything you find that helps you, definitely lean into it, would be my personal take. Cool. Anything else, anybody? And I forgot to put on the screen, I will say that if you are interested in any of my stuff, I do there's a picture of me, Black Friday special, like everyone else in the world does. But I did like 4 or 5 classes this year, deserving of love, one for healing past relationships and breakups. And I remember that one being particularly substantive, like it's a process I really put together for that. It's not EFT on that one. It's just like working through it, different things, bringing up different memories, rejections. So it doesn't have to be a past love per se, but there's a lot of meat in that. Feeling safe in your body. So they're at least an hour long. They're like me going through for probably about an hour or 45 minutes of just doing exercises. You can watch the video or download the audio. And then there's like Q&A like we're doing here, but specific to the subject. So it's more process oriented. So those are $15. You have them for your whole life, or my whole life, as long as I'm alive, to have the recordings up there. Those are $15, and there's a discount on a pack of 2 private sessions if anyone wants to do private sessions with me. Those are there. So I'll put that URL in the chat as well. That's on my website, and my website has, the other stuff, but it doesn't have the Black Friday. So yes, adding to your probably bombarding of Black Friday offers and emails and stuff, but there you have it. There's another one for you. So check it out if that's of any interest to you. As always, if you want to email me, it's on the website, innerworkcoach.com, just with like questions, stuff you want me to bring up on this live thing or another video. It's Sunday, and I usually put up a tapping video every Sunday, so I'll probably put one up this a little later today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow since we did this today. I don't know. It's learning what works best for YouTube, but so there'll be another tapping in a day or two, or this evening. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for your really great questions. Thanks for spending time and being interested in this work and doing all the things you're doing for yourself, because you are definitely making life better for the world and those around you by even being open to like exploring, hey, what's going on in me? What can I do to help, regulate myself, help myself feel better, feel more in tune, more at ease. The more we can do that in this craziest of worlds, but it certainly is an interesting world. But yeah, it can only help. So thank you very much. I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day. Maybe I'll